So we're going to go through this together, okay? Again, we'll get through probably this first sheet today, and then we'll finish the second half tomorrow during class. All right. So you just need the first part for right now, okay? So in Canvas, if you want to follow along, we are on the assignment that says Notes on Color. So it's here. And in the assignment, there is a Google slide presentation. Okay, so this is kind of what we are looking at. Let me stop being a student so I can get the rest of the Google slide controls. All right, so in here, all right, so this is the Google Slides that's in the Notes on Color assignment. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is the color wheel. All right, and there are 12 colors on the color wheel. In real life, there's a lot more colors than that, right? You can mix all sorts of things together to get different shades and variations and stuff, okay? But these are sort of like the 12 basic colors that we use to make other things. And they're arranged in this way on the color wheel because it helps you figure out how to kind of create different colors and how the colors are going to sort of work together. All right. So the first part that we're going to do on our sheet is we're going to fill in the color wheel and then the primary, secondary, and neutral colors in those little circles that are on the top of the sheet. All right. So you can just look at my paper and follow along. I'm going to share that screen with you again in a second. But if you want to look and see like what the colors are supposed to look like what goes in each space, you can look in the Google slide in the assignment. Okay, so this is like, so you can tell what color goes where on your color wheel. Okay. All right, so let me switch to the other one so that you can see my paper. All right, so we're gonna fill in, we're gonna start and do part of this first, and then we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit so that our paint has time to dry on some different things. All right, and again, if you're using colored pencils or crayons or something, that is also fine, okay. All right, so I'm gonna start on here with sort of like basic colors. All right, so the ones where it's the really straightforward color name like yellow and green and blue. All right, and then we're going to go back later on and we'll fill in these other ones where the hyphenated names are, because they're going to be a little bit more complicated. Okay, so we're starting with the basic colors. We're going to fill in the pie slices with that color. All right, so if you are using a watercolor set, these are designed to have water mixed in with the paint, okay? So, which is why they're called watercolors. So what you're gonna do to use your paint is you wanna take your brush and put it in your water first. So like get your brush wet. And then you wanna put a little bit of water on the paint and that'll like activate the color. All right, so you've gotta add water to the paint for it to work. And then you can paint in the color in the right place. So I'm going to do the yellow first. All right, and then I want to wash my brush, which is the really important step. So I'm washing my brush, and then I'm going to get a little bit more water. And usually, so I don't drip all over the place, all right, I wash my brush and then I kind of like wipe it off on the side of my container so it doesn't drip everywhere. All right, so next one is green. So I'm gonna put a little bit of water in my green and fill that one in. And usually when I paint in these spaces, if I'm trying to paint in a specific shape, I'll kind of go around the outside first and then fill in the big space in the middle. It just makes it a little bit easier to kind of like get it to be neat and stay in the lines. All right. So I painted around the edges first and then filled in the center. All right. So then I'm going to do blue. And I washed my brush. That's really dark. So the more water you put with the color, the lighter it will be. Okay. So if it seems like it's either really dark, like that was really dark to start with, I can get more water on my brush and kind of spread my color out some. All right. If it seems really light, like sometimes it'll come out really light to start with, then I would put my brush back in the paint again and get a little bit more paint on there and do like another layer. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to keep going around here and fill in. It's like every other one are kind of the basic colors. On your paint set, so when you get to the one that says violet, violet is the same as purple. All right. On the color wheel, we just call it violet instead of purple because that's how it is. Okay. But in your paint set, when you look at your colors, the violet might look really, really dark. It might look almost like black. All right. So you may want to, it should be the one that's like next to the blue. All right. But you may want to, like, if you're not sure if it's actually the purple or the black, you might want to test it just on the edge of your paper or something, just to make sure that you have the right color. Okay, and we discovered during first period that the color on the camera on the computer tends to make everything look a little bit more blue. Okay, so this looks kind of blue on the screen, but it really is purple on my paper, I promise. All right. Red. So when you're painting with the watercolors, the paint should spread pretty easily on your paper, all right? If it seems like it's really sticky for some reason, that means you need to use more water, all right? And your colors should look a little bit transparent, like a little bit see-through when you're painting. This is not a super solid kind of paint. And because we are painting on copier paper, it may look a little bit weird, all right? Because this paper is not really made for paint, but you'll be okay. All right. So I've got those spaces filled in. And then what I'm actually gonna do is I wanna let this dry a little bit before I do the in-between spaces, just because if I try to paint the section that's like right next to the wet paint, they might bleed together and my colors might get all muddy looking, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let this part dry and I'm gonna work on the other section over here, the little small circles, and then we'll go back and we'll do the in-between ones. That way our colors won't get mixed up accidentally because the paint is still wet, okay? All right, so we'll come back to this. We're gonna fill in some parts over here next. I'm gonna go back to Canvas really quick so that you can see sort of where we are. All right. There we go. So on the color wheel, the colors are arranged in a specific way, and it's designed to help you figure out how to make other colors if you're trying to mix colors, okay? So the primary colors on the color wheel are these big circles here on this one, right? And they are red, yellow, and blue. They're the colors that you use to make all of the other colors, okay? So even if you have a paint set that only has red, yellow, and blue in it, or you only had a red, yellow, and blue colored pencil, all right, you could still make all of these other colors that are on there, all right? So they're sort of like equal distance apart from each other on the color wheel, okay? All right, so in our little circles over there, we're gonna fill them in with those colors, all right? We also have on the color wheel the secondary colors, and those are the ones that are kind of like halfway in between the primary colors. And if you mix together the two primary colors that are on either side, you get, you get the secondary color that's in the middle. Okay, so yellow and blue mixed together is gonna make green, right? Blue and red mixed together is gonna make violet or purple. And then red and yellow mixed together is gonna make orange, all right? And then these other in-between ones are called tertiary, like number 3, right? Or intermediate colors. We'll talk about those a little bit more later on, okay? All right, so we're gonna start out over here, and we're gonna fill in the primary colors. So we said primary colors are red, yellow, and blue, okay? And they can go in any order here. It doesn't really matter if you wanna put blue first or yellow first or whatever. It doesn't make a difference, okay? So I'm just gonna paint in my circles. So the first one's gonna be red. Yellow. And blue. Okay. All right, so again, primary colors are the ones that you use to make all of the other colors. So you have to have those ones to start with. There's not anything that you can mix together to get yellow or to get blue, okay? They're made out of like pigments and dyes and different things where you just have to make that, like start with that color, okay? All right, so primary colors are the ones you start with, and then secondary colors are what you get when you mix two primary colors together. So if we mix yellow and blue, you're gonna get the color that's in between them on the color wheel. You're gonna get green, all right? If you mix red and blue, you're gonna get the color in between, the violet. And then if you mix red and yellow, you're gonna get the color in between, the orange. All right, so our secondary colors here are gonna be orange, green, and violet are the 3 circles. really dark.
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So I don't know if everybody's watercolor thing is like this, but mine already had the in-between colors. So like
Do you have one that has the 16 colors in it instead of 8?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that's fine. You can
Okay,
use those in between ones if you want.
okay.
We had different numbers of um, and kinds of watercolor sets when we were putting the kits together. So some people got slightly different versions.
Oh, okay.
All right, I'm gonna label these just because my purple keeps looking like it's blue on the screen. So those three, that was orange, green, and violet, or purple. Okay. All right, and then the neutral colors. These are colors that aren't actually on the color wheel, like they're not part of the circle, but they're sort of like the other colors that you have that you need to kind of mix things and get different shades and stuff sometimes, okay? So neutral colors are gonna be white. You're gonna leave one of the circles white, all right? Brown, so I'm gonna use the brown in my paint set. All right, so white, brown, black is a neutral color. Paint one circle black. And then the last one is gonna be gray, okay? And there's not a gray in your paint set. So to make gray, what we're gonna do is we need to make the black lighter, okay? And we're gonna use the lid of your paint set is gonna be like a palette, a place for you to mix colors and get different colors, okay? So we're gonna use this to mix your paint on. So to get gray, we wanna make the black lighter. And with watercolors, there's not a white in here either, okay? So to get colors to be lighter, basically you just have to add more water to them to get them to be lighter, all right? So what we wanna do, if we just put a whole lot of water in here, in the color, it'll turn it into soup, and we don't want that, okay? So instead, we're gonna put the water on the lid of the paint box. So I just made sort of like a little puddle of water. It might be hard to see on the screen because it's clear. All right, so I just put my brush in the water and then put some water on the lid of my paint box here. And then I'm gonna take just a little tiny bit of black and mix it with that water. Right, and you just need the smallest, tiniest amount of black. That may have even been a little bit much, so I might put a little bit more water over here and put just some of this in to make it even lighter. All right, so you're trying to get it to look gray. When you think it looks right, you can paint in your circle. If you want to like test it out on part of your paper somewhere and see how it looks, you can test it before you paint too. That might not be dark enough. That's better. All right, so again, you're trying to make gray. Put some water on the lid of your paint set. Mix a tiny bit of black in. The more water you have, the lighter the color will be. Okay. All right, and I'm just gonna label these ones too so that people know what colors you're trying to get. So white, brown, black, and gray. So those are your neutral colors. Okay. All right. Is everybody okay so far? We'll talk about these intermediate ones next year. All right, so hopefully now, since we painted over here for a little bit, hopefully your other pie slices on your color wheel are pretty dry, all right? If they're a little bit wet still, it's okay, but they should be pretty dry by now, okay? So we're gonna fill in these in-between colors, all right? Now, if you have one of the watercolor sets that has 16 colors in it, all right, you might have these colors in your watercolor set. If you have colored pencils where there's a whole bunch of colors in the box, you might have colored pencils that say these things on them too, okay? So I would look, if you're using colored pencils, I would look at the name on the colored pencil and use the one that matches what it says here, okay? For the intermediate colors, the primary color gets listed first, all right? And then the secondary color gets listed second. So when we were making colors, we started with the primary ones. When you mix those two together, you get the secondary color in the middle. To get the tertiary colors, like the third one, or intermediate colors, you mix together the two things that are on either side of that color, okay? And again, on the color wheel, the primary color gets listed first, so it's always gonna start with red, yellow, or blue, all right? If you've got a colored pencil set that has lots and lots of colors in it, sometimes you'll have yellow, green, and then you'll also have a pencil that says green, yellow, all right? The green, yellow has more green in it. It's usually whichever color is first, there's a little bit more of, okay? All right, so again, you're gonna mix together the two colors on either side to get the color that goes in the middle, all right? And I would use the lid of your paint box to mix your colors. If your paint box lid has paint on it for some reason, which it might, okay? The way to clean it off is to take your brush with just some water on it and then get this paint wet again. It'll like reactivate the paint, all right? So I'm just getting all of this wet. And then I'm gonna take a paper towel or a napkin and just wipe the paint off, like dry it off, okay? So if you need to clean your paint box lid, again, just take your brush with some water. It's got dried paint on it. Get the paint wet again, and then dry it off with a paper towel. All right. All right, so now I've got, dry off my gray up here too, so I have a little bit more space. All right, so what I want to do, I'm gonna do the yellow green one first. I'm gonna start with this color over here. Okay, so what I wanna do, I need to mix together yellow and green. So I'm gonna take a little bit of yellow and put that on my paint box lid. I did not think my brush was clean. I'll show you how to fix that in a minute. All right, and then I'm gonna, here, let's try again. All right, so if this happens where you accidentally get a color mixed in with your other paint, all right, the way to fix it is to take your brush and clean it off really well. So you have a clean brush, and then you're basically gonna like twirl the brush on the surface of the color. It's like you're kind of rolling the brush across the top of it, all right? And then you might have to rinse it off and do it a couple of times. But it'll pick up that color that got mixed in accidentally, and then it'll clean your color off, all right? What you don't wanna do is take the paint set and try to run it under the faucet, because if you do that, all of your colors will turn into soup and you will have like a giant rainbow puddle in your sink, all right? So don't put the paint under the faucet. It seems like a good idea, but it's not. All right, so I'm gonna try again with my yellow. This one was kind of muddy looking. All right, that's better. So I put my yellow over here, and then I'm gonna wash my brush. And then I'm gonna get a little bit of green and mix the green in with the yellow on the lid of my paint box, okay? And I can kind of make adjustments like that is really green. And I think it might need a little bit more yellow in it. So I'm washing my brush again, and then I'm gonna get a little bit more yellow to kind of mix in and make it a little bit lighter. That looks better. All right, so once I've got a color that I like, that I think looks good, I'm gonna paint it in the space over here. All right, so for the next one, the blue-green is in between the blue and the green. So those are the two colors that I need to mix together to get this color that goes in this space. Put a little bit of green on my paint box lid, and then wash my brush. Put a lot of blue. Put a little bit of blue. So the blue-green should be, it should look kind of like a turquoisey color. Those look really close on the screen. All right, I'm gonna hold up my other one that's dry and see if it's in front of the camera, because I think the colors look a little bit better on that part. All right, so again, you want it to look kind of in between the green and the blue on there. All right, and then for the blue violet, I'm gonna mix together blue and violet, blue and purple. All right, again, the color is a little bit weird on this camera part. Okay, so it should look like this. Okay. All right, and then I'm just gonna keep going around. I'm gonna do the rest of them. So you're mixing the colors on either side to get the color in between. When you get to the yellow orange, the orange is a lot stronger than the yellow, so you probably need more yellow with just a little bit of orange. Get it to come out right. All right. So hopefully each one of your spaces going around should look like it is a different color. Okay, that's the goal with this part. All right, questions about the top part of the paper where we filled in all the circles? Are we good on that part? Are we still painting? Do you need another minute? All right, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go back to the Google Slides and Canvas, and we're gonna go through kind of the next part to fill in the blanks on the bottom here, okay? So hopefully everybody's got their top parts of their pages good. Move my water over. All right, so let me switch to the other screen. All right, so we talked about the neutral colors, right? Brown, black, gray, and white. And it's all different shades of like brown and gray and that sort of thing, okay? All right, so the colors on the color wheel are arranged to help you figure out how to mix colors, but they're also arranged to help you figure out sort of like what colors go together and what colors are gonna like stand out next to each other and all of that sort of stuff, okay? So where things are on the color wheel helps you figure out the relationships between the colors. So the first part that we're going to talk about is complementary colors. And those are colors that are basically like opposites on the color wheel. All right. So when you look at the color wheel, the color that's straight across from it, it's like you're dividing the circle in half. All right. So not straight across in a straight line. All right. But like you're trying to split the circle in two, that's the complement of that color. All right. And complementary colors are sort of like the colors that have the most contrast, like the biggest difference between them. So if you put those two colors together in your picture right next to each other, they're going to really stand out next to each other. Okay. So a lot of like sports teams colors, like the Florida Gators, where I went to school, are sets of complementary colors, right? Their colors are orange and blue, and their uniforms are those colors because it makes their team stand out more on the field when they're playing. All right. So there's a lot of like purple and yellow, okay, red and green. You'll see those combinations kind of a lot sometimes. Okay. So colors that are across from each other that are like opposites are complementary colors. So this is your first blank on your sheet. Now, when you write this kind of complementary, it's spelled with an E after the L, all right? The other complementary, where there's an I here, that's like you're giving somebody a compliment, like saying something nice about them, right? So if you're being complimentary and saying nice things, that's spelled with an I, all right? If you are talking about colors that are opposites, that complement each other, that's spelled with an E. So check your spelling when you're writing it in the blank. Make sure you spell things right, okay? So colors that are on opposite sides of the color wheel are called complementary colors. All right, and then you're going to write an example in there. So one pair of complementary colors, you can pick any two colors that are opposite. All right, so orange and blue, red and green, purple and yellow. Okay, I'm going to write down orange and blue. All right, you could also, if you wanted to be fancy, you could write down intermediate colors, tertiary colors if you wanted. So this is yellow orange, right? Yellow orange is the complement of blue violet. So whatever it's opposite from, all right? This is also a set of complementary colors. Okay. All right, so that's the first part of our blanks. The word monochromatic means one color. All right, so this is like a specific color scheme that you might use in an artwork. Okay, and it means that you're using just one color and all of the different shades and tints of that color. Okay, so if you pick blue, everything in your picture is going to be some version of blue. Okay, and it's kind of based on like the root in the word kind of tells you what the word means. So the mono part, that means one, right? Chrome or chroma means color. So monochromatic means one color. All right, so you're going to write that in your blanks. The word monochromatic means one color. So to make a monochromatic painting, you're going to choose a color, right? And you're going to add white to the color to get like lighter shades. And then you're also going to add black to make darker shades. So to make a monochromatic painting, you're using one color mixed with white and black to get different values. All right, so white and black go in your blanks on your sheets. All right, good so far? So we can also split the color wheel up into warm and cool colors, and it's basically half and half, okay? The dividing line goes in between the yellow and the yellow-green. So yellow is a warm color, yellow-green is a cool color, all right? And it splits it in half. So down here, red-violet is a warm color, violet or purple is a cool color, okay? And you can think about it like the colors that you sort of associate with the sun and summertime and being warm, all right? Those are the warm colors. The ones that are more like water, cool, okay? Those are cool colors, all right? So you're gonna write down on your sheet 3 examples of warm colors. So pick 3 colors from this side, all right? Make sure you write the actual color wheel name of it. So this is red, violet, not pink, okay? But you could put like red, orange, and yellow are all warm colors. And then you're also gonna write down 3 cool colors. So 3 colors from this side. I'm gonna write green, blue, and violet. Okay. All right. Now, colors that are next to each other on the color wheel are called analogous colors. I'm going to say that word again, analogous. All right. So colors that are next to each other are called analogous colors. You're going to fill in the blank on your paper. All right. So complementary colors were the ones that were opposites, right? Those are sort of like the colors that have the most contrast. They're going to stand out if you put them right next to each other, all right? Analogous colors are colors that are sort of automatically going to go together. They're going to kind of like blend together and look more calming and soothing if you put those colors together in your picture, okay? So if you were trying to make a more calm, sort of soothing picture where you wanted colors that automatically sort of went together, you might pick analogous colors, like any 3 that are next to each other on the color wheel. Okay? All right, I'm gonna stop sharing this and go back to the other sheet because we've kind of talked about the other things already. We just need to fill in the blanks down here. All right, so we said when you mix 2 primary colors together, you get a secondary color, right? So mixing 2 things together, you get the color that is in between them. All right, so 2 primary colors together makes a secondary color. All right. And it sort of makes a pattern on the color wheel, right? So yellow is a primary color. This is a primary color. This is a primary color, right? The ones that are halfway in between are secondary colors. Okay, do you see the pattern? And then the ones that are in between those all of these hyphenated ones that have 2 colors in the name, these are the tertiary is like 3, or intermediate colors, okay? So if you are writing examples of tertiary colors, you can pick any of these in-between ones, all right? The important part with these is on the color wheel, they're always written with the primary color first. So it's always going to start with red, yellow, or blue, all right? And then the secondary color goes second, all right? And make sure that you put the little dash, the little hyphen in between. That part is important, okay? So you can pick out any 2 of those colors to put in your blanks down at the bottom. So I'm going to write red, violet, and yellow, green. All right, and again, on the color wheel, we always say violet instead of purple. Red, purple just sounds a little bit weird. Okay, so red, violet, blue, violet, those are the actual color names. Okay. All right, so hopefully you got your whole first sheet done here, okay? Tomorrow, we will do the second half of it, the other sheet together, and then you'll have a little bit of time, hopefully, to kind of play with a few things online with color and try some stuff out. But you should be done with this part. So what we're going to do eventually is we're going to turn in both of these pages, like pictures of both of them, on the notes about color assignment in Canvas, okay? So if you want to go ahead and like take a picture of this page and turn it in, you can, and then you can add the other page to it tomorrow, like resubmit it tomorrow with the other page, okay? Just some of us lose things, all right? So it might be a good idea to take a picture now, okay? All right, so you should have that part. I'm gonna stop sharing here. All right, so that gets turned in Canvas on the assignment that says notes on color.